And Dominaria United spoiler hype video number 5. 5 now. When we left off with Tobias, a legendary that when you kill him off, you create a 2/2 black zombie creature for each creature that died this turn. You don't want him on the board when you board wipe, because all the creatures that died come back as 2/2 black zombies. Not fun. Not fun at all. But let's move on to the next thing. Magnagoth Sentry. 1 green and 3 for a 4/4 tree folk with reach. You always need creatures with reach in green. Next up is Molten Monstrosity. A beefy 1 red and 7 colorless for a 5/5. It says, this spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control, and it has trample. Probably not going to see that much play, but if you're playing with a big creature deck, this is a good ad. Next up is Snare Spinner. 1 green and 1 for a 1/3 spider with reach. Whenever Snare Spinner blocks a creature with flying, Snare Spinner gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Again, another green creature with reach. Spiders and Dominaria are always a thing. Next up is Viashino Branch Rider. 1 red mana for a 1/1 Viashino Warrior that has kicker 1 green and 2. If Viashino Branch Rider was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. And for 1 red and 2, Viashino Branch Rider gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So, if you're playing green-red, you can put him in as a 3/3. And, when he's out there, you can use the 1 red and 2 to pump him up some more. What's not like to not like about that? Okay. Volsci Tide Turner. 1 blue and 1 for a 1/3 Merfolk Wizard that has tap, add 1 blue mana. Spend this mana only to cast an instant or sorcery spell or a kicked spell. Please excuse me. That is super useful, especially if you're playing in a spells deck. Or for your kicked spells. Extra mana is always good. And in blue, you don't find that often. Voda Sea Scavenger. 1 blue and 2 for a 3/2 Merfolk Rogue with Domain. Voda Sea Scavenger enters the battlefield. When Voda Sea Scavenger enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. You may put one of those cards on the top of your library, the rest on the bottom of you in a random order. So basically like a scry if you're playing, multicolored land, lots of different lands. Next up is probably a decent reprint for this set, and it's Thrill of Possibility. 1 red and 1 for an instant. It says as an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card and then draw 2 cards. Yes. Next up, another one of the the commander cards. That is the reimagined Legends character, and this is a reimagined form of Tetsuo Umezawa. It's called Tetsuo Imperial Champion. 1 blue, 1 black, 1 red for a 3/3 legendary human samurai. Whenever Tetsuo Imperial Champion attacks, if it's equipped, choose 1. Tetsuo deals damage equal to the highest mana value among equipment attached to it to any target, or you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand with mana value less than or equal to the highest mana value among equipment attached to Tetsuo without paying its mana cost. So here's a guy that's a samurai that you want equipped. Now he's a samurai. This guy will go in a perfectly either as a commander or in a deck from stuff from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, with especially with all of the reconfigurable equipment that you have in that deck that are in those colors. I mean, there is a number of cards in those 3 colors that you can use. Some of them with decent mana values, which can allow you to do all sorts of things. And you get to choose those every time he attacks. So, that's a useful, powerful card. Next up, and this is another card that's in the Japanese text, so I have to go and read the translation of it. This is Lady Otaria. The Lady of Otaria is 1 red, 1 green, and 3 colorless for a 5/5. You may tap. She's a legendary. I don't know if she's a dwarf or what. Yeah, I can't. I don't read Japanese, unfortunately. Not something I have learned yet. But she says that her text says you may tap 3 untapped dwarves you control rather than pay this spell's mana cost. Well, there's all sorts of cheap dwarves out there. So that can be super fun. And then also at the beginning of each end step, if a land you controlled was put into a graveyard from the battlefield this turn, reveal the top 4 cards of your library, put any number of dwarf cards from among them into your hand, and the rest at the bottom of your library in a random order. Okay, don't destroy this guy's lands, because he's just gonna look at the top 4 cards of your library and put dwarves from that onto the battlefield. That might not be the best of ideas. Okay, let's move on. Scout the Wilderness. 1 green and 2 for a sorcery that has kicker 1 white and 1. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. If this spell was kicked, create 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. Okay, so mana ramp, and if you kick it, you get chump blockers. Yahoo! Okay, Urborg Repossession. Another super cheap, super powerful card that I think is going to see a lot of play. Urborg Repossession is 1 black mana for a sorcery with kicker 1 green and 1 colorless. It says return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. You gain 2 life. If this spell was kicked, return another target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Yo! Not only, without it even being kicked, you get a creature card and you gain 2 life. What's not to like about that? And that's 1 black mana! Hoo ha! And then if you kick it, you get another permanent spell, which is lands, artifacts, enchantments, creatures. Anything but instants and sorceries, basically. I'm all down with that card. And I think that's going to see a lot of... If anybody's going to play black or black and green, you're going to see this card in those decks. Okay, next up is Writhing Necromass. For a beefy 1 black and 6 colorless, you get a 5/5 zombie giant. Says this spell costs 1 colorless less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard. And it has Death Touch. Yeah, yes, you can do that, especially if you're playing a Reanimator style deck. Next up is Singir Connoisseur. 2 black and 3 colorless for a 3/3 vampire with flying. Whenever 1 or more other creatures die, put a +1/+1 counter on Singir Connoisseur. This ability triggers only once each turn. Not quite a Singir vampire, but it does get bigger. Next up is another powerful card in Baldovian Atrocity. 1 black and 2 colorless for a 2/3 Phyrexian Berserker that has Kicker 1 red. It has Menace. It says when Baldovian Atrocity enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Well, well, well. And if you're playing multiples of this, you can keep kicking them and keep creating copies, bring back creatures from your graveyard. And that's for red mana. That's just gonna be a little bit insane. Next up is another of the reimagined legends. The Legends Retold, I believe is what they call it. But it's Aisha Tanaka Armorer. And it's 1 white, 1 blue, and 3 colors for a 2/4 legendary human artificer. Whenever Aisha Tanaka Armorer attacks, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may put any number of artifacts with mana value less than or equal to Aisha's power from among them onto the battlefield tapped, with the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Aisha can't be blocked as long as the defending player controls 3 or more artifacts. Yeah, this is definitely a character that cares about artifacts. And if you're defending, if your opponent is playing something like Karn that's creating all those little Power Stone artifacts, and he's got 3 of them out, yeah, she can't be blocked. So definitely something very, very useful. Okay, I've got another foreign text card that I have to bring up. And this is Chaotic Transformation. 1 red and 5 for a sorcery that says exile up to one artifact, up to 1 target creature, up to 1 target enchantment, up to 1 target planeswalker, and or up to 1 target land. For each permanent exile this way, its controllers reveal cards from the top of their library until they reveal a card that shares a card type with it and puts that card onto the battlefield, then shuffles. So if I read this right, every time they have something that's been targeted, they have to look through their library for something that matches that type and put it onto the battlefield, shuffle their cards, go on to the next one, repeat the process for each one of those things. So you can do it for yourself to get better stuff, or you can do it for your enemy to get rid of their stuff, and hopefully they have worse stuff. Well, my video's at 16 minutes, so we're going to cut it off here, and we'll see you on the next video.